Shalom. Some years ago, two very great rabbis went on a mission for the Jewish people to the capital, St. Petersburg. It was Rabbi Itzela from the city of Lozhen, well-known leader, great scholar and sage, and the Tzemach Tzedek, also a great leader and a great scholar. And these two rabbis went on this mission, and the mission that they had took much longer than they expected, and they found to their consternation that they would not get back home in time for Chagim. They would not be home. Rosh Hashanah, they had to remain away from their homes, and came Yom Kippur. They found themselves again, they still stuck there, and they really were in desperate need of a significant community where they could pray the day of Yom Kippur. They were accustomed back home where they came from, to these wonderful, glorious communities that they headed, where they would have this very inspiring prayers. And here they stuck in the middle of, there weren't great Jewish communities at the time. It was in the dark days of repressed communism, and they had to find a place to pray. And then one of them heard that there was a secret minyan, a secret service to be held of the Cantonists. Cantonists were Jews who were taken forcefully by the Tsar's army. They used to come into a city, into a town, and they would capture all the young children, and they would take little children, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they would put them through a whole procedure, and then have them recruited into the army. They would be virtually kidnapped from their families, and they would spend another 25 years in the army. So by the time these kids were finished, they basically were detached from their communities. They were really, some of them already getting in towards middle age, broken people, and they were forced into this situation of the army. That's what the Cantonists. But many of them retained their Jewish identity miraculously. And they heard that there's going to be a clandestine meeting of Cantonists for Yom Kippur. So these two great rabbis found out the whereabouts, and they came to this synagogue. And they followed along, and the prayers were held in secrecy. And then came to the climax of Yom Kippur is Ne'ilah, the final prayer on the end, towards the end of the day, the Ne'ilah service, which is the climax of the whole of Yom Kippur. And the question was, who would be the Baal Tefillah? Who would lead the community in this final prayer? And many looked to one of these great rabbis, that they would be able to inspire the people in this last prayer. And at that moment, a man stepped forward, and you could see the man had been through one of the Cantonists, one of these soldiers. He had scars all over his face, his arms were scarred. He was clearly a man who had suffered greatly, and he said, "I want to lead the prayer." And of course the rabbi stepped back, and they saw this man who had spent years of torture. And before he went up, he explained to them, "I resisted throughout my army career. I resisted them. I would not eat not kosher food. I would fight to try and observe Shabbat. It cost me a lot of beatings and a lot of imprisonment and a lot of suffering and torture, but I resisted them." The rabbis thought, well, this certainly is the man to lead the prayers at such a crucial moment of the day of Yom Kippur, a man who's had so much self-sacrifice for the sake of God. So this man came forward. He was going to lead the service. But before starting the service, he turned to the community and he spoke. And he said, what we pray for on Yom Kippur is, as it says in the Talmud, we pray for Chaye, for life. That's a good life. We pray for Boni, we pray for children and our children and family, and mezainis, and we pray for parnosa, we pray for sustenance, that we can have the wherewithal to live and survive. These are the three main categories that we're beseeching God for at the end of Yom Kippur. It's the end of when the fate of a person for the entire life is sealed. We pray for chaye, boni, and mezoini, for these three categories. And he said, chaye, what's my wife worth? What's my life worth? I spent all these years, the better years of my days, I've spent under this terrible conditions, being beaten black and blue virtually daily. What is my life worth? No, I just pray along that I'll survive. Maybe I can keep another mitzvah. Boni, there's no chance I'm not going to get married again. I'm not going to get married at all. Life has been too cruel to me. There's no way by the time I get out of here, I'm not going to be a fit husband for anybody or a father for anybody. So boni, I'm not praying for children. Mezoini, well, the Russian army is providing me with my rations every day and my food, so I don't have much to pray for either in that field. He says, but I have one thing that I want to say. I want to pray for the sanctification of God's name. I want to pray that His glorious name will be praised by all. And he proceeded to say the great prayer, Kaddish, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabo. May God's name be sanctified. And that's how he began the prayer. Man had been through so much, and all that concerned him was that God's name should be sanctified.